The distress signal came from Sector 7, deep within the abandoned mining colony on Kithara Prime. Elin had seen plenty of derelict stations in her 15 years as a salvage operator. But something about this one made her uneasy. The calm chatter suggested the Krenathi, the galaxy's apex predators and most feared warrior species, had established a forward base here. Smart money said, "Stay away." Elin had never been good with smart money. She maneuvered her small vessel through the debris field, scanning for anything valuable. The Krenathi weren't known for leaving scraps behind, but humans had a talent for finding worth in what others discarded. It was how Earth had clawed its way from the bottom of the galactic hierarchy to something resembling respect. The station's hull groaned as she docked. Emergency lighting flickered in the corridors, casting shadows that seemed to move with predatory intent. Elin checked her scanner, no life signs nearby, but plenty of residual heat signatures. The Krenathi had been here recently. She moved through the station with practiced efficiency, her magnetic boots clicking softly against the deck plating. Most compartments were stripped clean, but in a civilization that valued only strength and conquest, sometimes the most valuable things were what they deemed worthless. The sound stopped her mid-step, crying. Soft, broken, and utterly wrong, in this place of cold, metal, and emptiness. Ellen's hand went to her sidearm, not that it would do much against a Krenathi warrior, whose scaled hide could shrug off most small arms' fire. But the sound wasn't coming from something warrior-sized. She followed it to a storage bay, its door hanging open. Inside, huddled behind a stack of cargo containers, was a Krenathi juvenile. Var. If Elin remembered the naming conventions correctly, the crest markings indicated high caste, possibly alpha bloodline. The young Krenathi was perhaps equivalent to a human 10-year-old, though already nearly Ellen's height. His scales were a deep crimson, still soft with youth, and his golden eyes were wide with something the Krenathi supposedly never felt: fear. Elin should have left. Should have backed away slowly and pretended she'd never seen this. The Krenathi dealt with perceived weakness in their young with brutal finality. If this pup's clan had abandoned him here, they'd done so for a reason. Interfering would be seen as an insult, possibly an act of war. She holstered her weapon and knelt down. "Hey," she said softly, keeping her hands visible. "You're Var, aren't you?" The young Krenathi's ears flattened against his skull, a fear response. His claws scraped against the deck as he pressed himself further into the corner. "Stay back, human. I am not afraid. I am Krenathi." But his voice cracked, and fresh tears carved paths through the dust on his scales. Ellen sat down, cross-legged, making herself smaller, less threatening. It was a gamble. The pup could still tear her apart if panic overtook him. "Being Krenathi doesn't mean you can't be scared," she said. "Being scared just means you're smart enough to recognize danger. The Alpha does not fear. The Krenathi do not fear. We are the conquerors, the apex." The Var's rehearsed words dissolved into a sob. "They left me. The raiders came and everyone ran to the ships, and they left me behind." Ellen's chest tightened. She'd heard the stories Krenathi society was built on strength, and those who showed weakness were cast out. Even the young, especially the young, who needed to prove themselves worthy of their bloodline. But knowing something intellectually was different from seeing a terrified child abandoned in the dark. "Your people have a saying, don't they?" Ellen said quietly. "The weak die. The strong survive." Var nodded miserably. "Humans have a different saying," Ellen continued. "The strong protect the weak. And you know what else? Even leaders get scared." The young Krenathi looked up, confusion cutting through his fear. "Leaders cannot be scared. The Alpha must be strong. Father says fear is weakness, and weakness is death." Ellen smiled sadly. "Your father is wrong. Every human leader throughout history has been scared. We've been scared of losing, scared of failing, scared of not being enough. But that fear, it doesn't make you weak. It makes you careful. It makes you think. It makes you human." She paused. "Well, In your case, it makes you alive. But I was scared when the raiders came, Var whispered. You survived, Ellen countered. That's not weakness. That's smart. You think human children fight off armed raiders? We hide them, protect them, because they're our future. They're not supposed to fight battles they can't win. Var's golden eyes searched her face. Why are you telling me this? Why do you care? We are enemies. Why are enemies? Why are enemies? Are we? Elin extended her hand slowly. The young Krinathi stared at her hand for a long moment. In Krinathi culture, physical contact was either violence or a bond of blood. But Ellen waited, patient, her hand steady. Finally, Var reached out. His scaled palm dwarfed hers, claws that could rend flesh, instead curling gently around her fingers. What do I do now? He asked, and he sounded so young. Now, you come with me, Elin said, standing and pulling him up. I'll contact your fleet, get you home. And maybe you'll remember that being scared doesn't make you weak. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you need help. As they walked through the station's corridors together, Var spoke quietly. The Alpha says, humans are prey. Soft, weak, conquered. Ellen laughed. Humans? We're scared of everything. Death, the dark, failure, spiders, public speaking, you name it. We're probably terrified of it. But we keep going anyway. We built starships while being scared of the sky. We made friends with species who once hunted us. We're absolutely terrified, Var. Every single day. Then how do you win? Ellen squeezed his hand. Because being scared doesn't mean you stop. It means you keep going despite the fear. That's not weakness, kid. That's courage. And maybe one day, when you're the Alpha, you'll remember that fear and compassion aren't weaknesses to purge. They're strengths to embrace. The young Krinathi said nothing, but his grip tightened. In the darkness of space, a human and a Krinathi walked together. And in that moment, the galaxy's carefully drawn lines of predator and prey blurred into something simpler, something older, kindness.